What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got some major things that are developing right now, including some major new relief and new money for millions of people here on student loan forgiveness and new checks coming out here for people as well. We'll be going over multiple different things here for you guys in this video. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below and the bell icon. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on new videos coming out here on our YouTube channel. Part of my mission is to keep you up to date with everything going on here in our country. And for this video and the next few videos, I actually have a lot of different things that have actually just come out here. So let's jump right in. Here we go. Okay, first up, we have some brand new information coming out here. You can see here after student loan debt cancellation or student loan forgiveness, Democrats are now looking to reduce further student debt. You can see here another headline from Business Insider. After Biden's student loan forgiveness, Democrats move to, quote, improve the lives of borrowers with a bill to make debt easier to pay off in the future. Here's the details on this. Democrats have introduced a bill to make student loans easier to pay off after the $10,000 to $20,000 of Biden's student loan debt relief. The bill would improve the public service loan forgiveness while lowering interest rates on new student loans as well. It would also limit interest capitalization, with which Republicans have supported as well. President Biden may have enacted broad student loan forgiveness through a presidential executive order, but Democrats aren't stopping there either. On Thursday, Chair of the House Education Committee, Bobby Scott, and Subcommittee Chairman Frederica Wilson introduced the Lowering Obstacles to Achievement Now, the Loan Act, intended to make students' loans easier to pay off once the pandemic pause on debt payments expires this January 2023. According to the press release, this legislation builds on Biden's executive order announcement of up to $20,000 in student loan debt forgiveness on federal borrowers. It will further address the root cause of student debt crisis, including the declining value of the Pell Grants and our flawed student loan system. Quote, the Loan Act is the next step we must take to confront the student debt crisis, Scott said in a statement. Building off of President Biden's actions, this legislation would lower the cost of college for students and families by doubling the Pell Grants system. Pell Grants are what is kind of additional kind of grants available only to the lowest income families. Improving the public service loan forgiveness program, lowering interest rates. I think this is one of the key things. I personally would like to see 0% interest rates for students. I think that would be a huge thing because a lot of the problems that I see is that a lot of people say that they graduated with $30,000 or $50,000 of student loans and that they have basically doubled because they've been paying on them, or as they've the interest has piled up, they've just gone up. So they've been paying their minimum payments or something like that, and the interest is just ballooned. So that's the problem with this, is that the interest just is insane on these. So that's one of the massive problems with these, is that the interest is really crushing to millions and millions and millions of people. And that's why we hear stories of, and these aren't like anomalies, these are stories that happen to millions and millions of people. They end up paying on these student loans for decades, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And really the more common scenarios are the 20, 30, 40 years. So it's really hard to pay off these student loans. It's really it becomes like a house payment where you end up paying on it for like 30 years and stuff. It's really tough to pay off for a lot of people. Simply put, by making loans cheaper to take out and easier to pay off, the Loan Act will help improve the lives of student loan borrowers both now and in the future. Specifically, according to the fact sheet, double the Pell Grants by raising the maximum award over 5 years to $13,000. Improve the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program by shortening the time frame to receive the forgiveness, currently set at 10 years, and codifying the current waiver expiring on October 31st, which would allow past payments to count towards forgiveness program. Make loans cheaper by eliminating interest capitalization on loans, including after periods of deferment and forbearance, and creating a safety net for vulnerable borrowers. And lower interest rates by tying the rates for all new federal loans to 10-year Treasury note, while ensuring no new loan will have an interest rate above 5%, and allowing both federal and private borrowers to access the lower rates. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let's get to a couple other things here. We're seeing more states here announcing money that is going to be coming back to Americans. This is really, really good here. So Massachusetts has announced here late last night that $3 billion will be returned to the tax or to the people of the state of Massachusetts. $3 billion tax surplus to be returned to taxpayers. The Massachusetts Administration and Finance Secretary has said that he anticipated that the taxpayers should expect to get to get back a chunk of the surplus in proportion that they paid in. Didn't offer details about when they could expect the money though. But the state auditor Suzanne Bump certified the Baker administration's estimate of $2.94 billion in excess tax revenue that must be returned under the 1986 voter-approved law known as Chapter 62F. It's the second time the law will return money to Massachusetts residents. So this is one of those states that has a law that says that if they have a certain amount of excess money called surplus money, that they have to return the money. So this is really, really good here. And California is one of those states, I believe. There's several states that have this. I don't know the exact amount. I don't know the exact states here. But apparently Massachusetts is one of these states, and this is only the second time that this has happened since 1986. And there's an estimated $3 billion that's going to come back to residents of Massachusetts. And they are just made this announcement yesterday. So this is really good here. So I will keep you up to date here on that. Looks like yet another state will be getting a state stimulus check or tax refund check or whatever you want to call it, because remember, it's basically the same thing. A stimulus check is actually considered a tax refund check. It's actually the same technical name. I'll keep you up to date on that. And this will now make at least 32 different states now that have done this. And I'll keep you up to date here on this. If you've been watching my channel here on a daily basis, you know that there is, 32 different states that have issued state stimulus checks, property tax refund checks, lowering taxes. It seems like every week here we have more and more states doing this. Also, here's another one for Stimulus Check Update 2022. Americans to get huge brand new bonus checks worth up to $1,000. Are you eligible? This is dated here just as of yesterday. Here's the details on this. Bonus checks up to $1,000 will be given to thousands of eligible Americans as part of a new program to support first responders. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis discussed the payments during an event earlier this week and personally gave some first responders their money at a gathering in Jacksonville. For the second year in a row, state officials in Florida authorized bonuses for all of the first responders in the whole state. the governor announced that almost 100,000 Floridians. I love all the states that have all the name for each people in each state. That 100,000 Floridians would get the bonus checks and that they're expected to be mailed within the next week. The eligibility requirements provided by the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity include employment job classes. An employee must be an essential first responder who is employed by a local government, sworn law enforcement officer, emergency medical technician, EMT, firefighter, or paramedic. They must have been employed by the local government as of May 1st, 2022. Also, I want to show you guys this. This was a really good debate here in Congress about the use of taxpayer money or so between Republicans and Democrats. One is Republican Senator Rick Scott. He'll be the first speaker here. He's the former governor of Florida. And, this is over the student loan forgiveness. But you also got to remember that this is a debate that could engulf or could cover other type of stimulus programs. There's a food SNAP assistance coming here in less than 2 weeks that could provide a massive raise for over 40 million Americans. We look at other type of stimulus checks. We've had 3 stimulus checks. We look at all these state stimulus check programs. Will there be a 4th stimulus check as well? And all these other type of programs, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. Right now, Republicans want to challenge the student loan forgiveness, but will they challenge the food stamp raise? Will there be the next stimulus check? You got to remember that what kind of precedents this might set for other programs like food stamps, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, other stimulus checks, any other type of program that might help people. Think about this when you're listening to this argument. You're going to hear Republicans and Democrats. Take a listen. This is a very good debate here on what they're talking about in Congress. And also remember that there's no taxes being raised here. Nobody's paying any additional taxes here. It's not like there's more money going to be paid by anybody at all. So just keep that in mind. It's not like you're paying more money because of student loan forgiveness or because of a food stamp raise or because of rent assistance or mortgage assistance or utility assistance or because of the stimulus checks or because of the Paycheck Protection Program or because of the unemployment bonuses. All these different programs that go on, these type of programs go on all the time on the government. There's been no taxes raised on Americans. So just keep that in mind when you hear these arguments. It's not like because the student loan forgiveness program went on, or because rent assistance went on, or the Paycheck Protection Program went on, or unemployment bonuses went on, or rent mortgage assistance went on, that Joe the plumber had to actually come out of his pocket and pay extra money. He's paying the normal taxes that he paid. And also remember that in America in 2020, 2021, income's not in, data's not in yet, but 61% of Americans actually paid no federal income taxes. So they may have paid a little bit of federal income taxes, but after the stimulus checks kind of gave them a rebate, because remember that stimulus checks are actually tax refund checks. So it's actually kind of a refund back on your federal taxes, okay? And then remember, when you get refunds back on your actual taxes, you get a refund, when you get your tax refunds. That's kind of a refund back on your taxes. So if you paid some federal taxes during the year, when you get a stimulus check, that's a refund check back on your taxes. And when you get your actual tax refund, when you're waiting for that in, March and April and stuff like that, 61% of Americans actually paid no federal income taxes or negative federal income taxes. So keep that in mind. So only really the top 39% of Americans, income-wise, actually, when all the math is done and all said and done after your refunds and stuff, actually end up paying federal income taxes. But listen to this debate. It's actually a really good debate here between Republicans and Democrats.
Madam President, have you ever gone out to eat at a restaurant with a group of people, but your order was cheaper than everyone else's? Maybe you weren't as hungry, or the restaurant the group picked was more expensive than you could afford, so you were selective about what you ordered. Then when the check comes, someone suggested the group split it evenly. Now, what's your immediate reaction? You're upset, of course, because you ordered the salad, not the filet mignon, or you drank water, not the expensive bottle of wine. You ordered what you wanted, and they ordered what they wanted. You shouldn't be on the hook for their cost. Sadly, Madam President, this illustration is far too real, as last month Joe Biden announced that he would cancel billions of dollars in student loans. Now, let's be clear. He isn't canceling student debt. No, he's transferring that debt to every American taxpayer. Now, a construction worker in Florida is having to foot the bill for the loans of a Harvard grad, which they voluntarily accepted for an education they received. So here's what Democrats are trying to say to that construction worker. You didn't go to college? Democrats don't care. You'll pay the debt of lawyers and doctors, and you'll pay for those who want PhDs in poetry. Talk about poetic injustice. You went to community college or a state school and worked to graduate debt-free. Tough luck. Joe Biden wants you to pay for the advanced degrees of the privileged few. Your tax dollars are now the money pot for other people's student debt. Of course, Joe Biden's plan doesn't even begin to address the real reason of rising higher education costs. That is universities' decades-long practice of unnecessarily raising tuition. As governor of Florida, I addressed that problem and challenged our universities to keep education affordable. Look at the University of Florida. Undergraduate tuition and fees for this academic year are less than $6,500, and it's the 5th best public university in the country. You'll get a fantastic education there. Meanwhile, at Harvard, tuition fees for the academic year cost more than $57,000. There are ways to make education affordable, but Democrats and elites aren't interested in those solutions. That's why Joe Biden is engaging in this reckless move, even though he doesn't solve the real issue and even though he lacks the proper constitutional authority. Everybody knows this. That's why in July of this year, Nancy Pelosi herself denied the president had such power. When asked, she said, quote, "The president can't do it. That's not even a discussion." Yet now the Department of Justice is engaging in interpretive gymnastics to co-opt legislation that was passed to help our service members in the aftermath of 9/11. It's a desperate attempt to stretch a good law well beyond its intent so Joe Biden can give handouts to his liberal voters in Harvard pals. Biden wants to spend money that Congress has not appropriated for loan forgiveness that Congress has not authorized. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's a gross abuse of authority, and I won't stand for it. Congress must assert its authority here. We have the power of the purse, not the president. That's why I've introduced the Debt Cancellation Accountability Act. My bill would require the Department of Education to get an express appropriation from Congress before they can propose waiving, discharging, or reducing student loan debts to 2 or more borrowers in an amount greater than $1 million. If we want to transfer the debt of some and make everyone pay for it, then Congress has to make that decision. We should simply put it up for a vote. Of course, Democrats in the Senate won't do that.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
The senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object. This is a shameful attempt by Republicans to keep working Americans buried under mountains of student debt. President Biden's decision to cancel up to $20,000 of federal student debt for as many as 43 million Americans with incomes under $125,000 a year is an historic step to deliver life-changing relief to working families and to help rebuild America's middle class. Senator Scott's bill is just one of Republicans' desperate efforts to block cancellation for millions of Americans. Now, Republicans are happy to pass out tax breaks and regulatory loopholes for billionaires and giant corporations, but they're fighting tooth and nail to keep working families from getting a penny of relief. Evidently, Senator Scott believes that $2 trillion in Republican tax cuts that were not paid for is fine, so long as those tax cuts are aimed mostly at billionaires, millionaires, and giant corporations. But a program that costs a fraction as much and for which 90% of its benefits go to people earning less than $75,000 a year is now somehow a moral outrage. Today, he claims to worry about those taxpayers who he says will shoulder student loan cancellation. But where was Senator Scott, or then Governor Scott, when Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans handed out $2 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and giant corporations, not a penny of which were paid for? Where was he then? Well, he endorsed the Trump administration's plan to cut taxes for corporations, and he celebrated those tax breaks for the richest among us. He wasn't worried about how taxpayers would pay that off, not a word about the fairness for all the people who would bear that burden, so long as the benefits went mostly to the rich and the powerful. Senator Scott has basically laid it all out there for America to see, and that's the difference: helping billionaires or helping working families. And that difference pretty much sums up Republican and Democratic differences across the board. If we're cutting a break for the rich and the powerful, Republicans are on board. If we're trying to help out working people, congressional Republicans take to their fainting couches and claim to be so worried about the national debt. Student loan cancellation is very popular in America, including with the majority of people who have no student loan debt. And that is because there is scarcely a working person anywhere in America today who does not know someone who is choking on student loan debt. But Republicans, evidently the Republicans in Congress, live in bubbles that prevent them from meeting any of the millions of people out there who busted their tails, who worked multiple jobs, who made their payments, and who still watch their debt loads continue to climb. So let me just set the record straight here. I want to repeat an earlier point. Nearly 90% of relief dollars from President Biden's cancellation will go to Americans earning less than $75,000 a year, and none of the help goes to people making more than $125,000 a year. Now, actually, those numbers shouldn't be shocking. Think about who owes student loan debt. Senator Scott talks about Harvard multiple times in his speech, but it's not wealthy people who go to Ivy League schools who end up with the student loan debt. It's middle and working class Americans who were born into families who couldn't afford to pay out of pocket. In fact, 99.7% of borrowers did not attend an Ivy League school. By comparison, at the University of Florida, so that would mean what, 0.3% of people who went to Ivy League schools borrowed money. By comparison, I just looked it up while the senator was speaking, at the University of Florida, 15% have to borrow in order to make it through to graduation. At Florida State, 26%, that's 1 in every 4 people at Florida State, has to take out money in order to be in college. And at Florida A&M, the numbers are even higher. 68%, more than 2/3 of the people who are in school have to take out money in order to make it through college. And this is true across the country. At state schools, about half of all students have to borrow to make it through. At historically black colleges and universities, the number is about 90%. So let's be really clear about who exactly congressional Republicans are trying to take relief away from. It's not Ivy Leaguer doctors and lawyers. Who are the people that Senate Republicans say aren't worthy of the kind of help that billionaires and giant corporations could get in their big tax package? Who do Senate Republicans think should be squeezed harder? Who Who do Senate Republicans say should simply be left behind? Well, Senate Republicans want to leave behind the 42% of borrowers who do not even have a four-year college diploma. These are folks who took out money, loans, in order to become a nurse's aide, to become a mechanic, to go to beauty school, to get their commercial driver's license, to drive a truck. And too often, the wages that they were promised never materialized. Senate Republicans say, let them struggle, leave them behind. So who gets the most help under President Biden's cancellation? Senator Scott said this is all about doctors and lawyers. Let's take a look at that. The share of student loan borrowers who earned a cosmetology certificate is about double the share of borrowers who got professional degrees in law and medicine combined. Senate Republican says, let those cosmetology certificate holders struggle, leave them behind. Similarly, there are more student loan borrowers who took out debt to earn a certificate for driving trucks and working on the railroad than those who did so to become dentists and optometrists. Senate Republicans say, let those truck drivers and railroad workers struggle, leave them behind. And it's not just people who have two-year degrees or certificates who get help under President Biden's cancellation. It's people who don't have any degree at all. These are people who did everything our country asked them to do by graduating from high school and advancing their education.
The senator from Florida.
So let's remember what we're talking about here. We're not canceling debt. We're transferring debt. We're transferring the debt because this obligation doesn't go away. Somebody still owes this money. So what we're saying is people that decided, they made the choice to go to college or go to some higher education, they don't want to pay, they're not going to have to pay their debt, and people that didn't already paid off their debt, they're going to pay for it. My colleague from Massachusetts never acknowledged the example. We all remember when we went out to dinner and we didn't spend the most money, and how somebody suggested that, oh, let's just share it, and so we pay for the expensive wine and we pay for the expensive meal. That's not fair. When you talk to Americans around the country and they say, would you like to forgive all the debt? Absolutely, free's great. But when you say, you're going to pay for it, they say, absolutely not. Why would I pay off the debt for somebody else? And let's remember just what my bill does. It doesn't say we can't forgive student loans. It says that Congress ought to decide if we do it. This is going to cost up to $1 trillion. Now, I don't think we ought to so-called transfer this debt, but my bill will at least give us the chance to have a debate on it. But that's not what my colleague wants to do. I hope my colleague understands that her objection is absolutely a slap in the face to all those workers in Massachusetts and around the country that didn't go to college. Construction workers, small business owners, chefs, flight attendants, firefighters, landscapers, and so many other groups of people have made the decision not to pursue a higher education for whatever reason. And there are many others who worked hard to get scholarships, or those who worked part-time to afford college, or plenty others that took the time to pay off their loans. I'm going to stand with those people, working-class people, people who are responsible, hardworking Americans who absolutely are willing to pay off their obligations.
The senator from Vermont.
I am really delighted that my colleague from Florida is suddenly concerned about transfers of wealth. I really am. Because as he may or may not know, over the last 30 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth. Problem is, it has gone in the wrong direction. We're talking about the shrinking of the middle class. We're talking about trillions of dollars going to the top 1%. And we are ending up in a situation today where you have billionaires, you have large corporations that don't pay a nickel in federal taxes. And I always find it interesting that whenever Congress does something, ever so rarely, that benefits working people or low-income people, there is an uproar. Oh my God, you're helping young people. You're helping working people. You're helping poor people. What a terrible thing to do. But there is massive silence when you give gigantic tax breaks to the 1% or large corporations who are now doing phenomenally well. So if my colleague from Florida is interested in the transfer of wealth, let's work together and let's make sure that the working class of this country, not just the billionaires, get a fair shake. Let's help young people. Let's start canceling the student debt that we should have done years ago.
So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Who's right? Who's wrong? Do low, middle income Americans deserve help? Yes, no? Do corporations deserve help? Corporations get help all the time. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. And then what about the next program and the next program and the next program? Do Americans deserve help? In this case, it's 43 million Americans. What about the next program? Do Americans deserve help? In this case, it's people with student loans. The next program coming up here in less than 2 weeks is going to be a food SNAP conference. Do they deserve help? Do people on food stamps deserve help? What about these 31, 32 states that are now giving back money to their people? Do they deserve help? Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything in our going on here in our country on a daily basis. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. And I'll keep you up to date here. You can click here to see millions of other people that are getting checks here on a daily basis. And you can click here to see a new video I just did about the $2,400 raise for Social Security. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.